right, how's the sound on this? Is it pretty good? Are we recording? Okay, do you want to get Jack in here? Thank you, Jack. All right, welcome everyone to the Kelly Writers House. My name is Jessica Lowenthal. I'm the director here. And if this is your first time here, or you don't receive mailings from us, I hope you'll sign our guest book in the vestibule. And we can send you a paper calendar once a month, or we can send you emails once a week, or we can send you emails more often than that. If you even write something like, send me as many emails as possible, we could send you one every day, and we would. Al, you like the sound higher? Yeah. Do y'all feel you can hear me okay? Okay. I'd like to start off by thanking Seth Ginns. The Seth Ginns International Fund at the Writers House allows us to do all kinds of programs to bring writers from all over the world. And so that includes tonight's program because Scott came all the way from Norway. And so thank you, Seth Ginns. I hope you're watching. And if you're not, we'll certainly send you a clip. Seth is really interested in thinking internationally about writing and writing communities, and this is actually an ideal program to help with that project. So a little bit about the artists we have featured tonight. This is sort of from our formal bios, so you might already know a lot of this, but it's impressive and interesting, so I wanted to share it. SCOTT RETTBERG writes about new media and electronic literature, and he writes it too. He writes about it and he writes it. He's co-founder of the Electronic Literature Organization and currently project leader of a project called Electronic Literature as a Model of Creativity and Innovation in Practice, which is also done as, is it ELMSIP or ELM? I wasn't sure. So it's ELMSIP. And you can get online and then suddenly you're in this vast world of stuff. It's a collaborative research project. It involves 8 European research partners, and they're investigating how creative communities of practitioners form in a transnational and transcultural context, but particularly in an electronic literature context. They focus on the electronic literature community in Europe as a model of networked creativity. NICK MONTFORT is an associate professor of digital media at MIT in the program in writing and humanistic studies. He writes poetry, text generators, interactive fiction, critical articles, and monographs, and he's a computer scientist. Nick has collaborated on the blog Grand Text Auto, the sticker novel implementation, and the contemporary fiction novel 2002, A Palindrome Story. He reminded me that he likes to come to Writers House on holidays. It seems to be the mode he operates best in, and we almost made this a Halloween program, but there was a competing bid for a community-based costume party. So we chose today instead. Well, I'm getting there. We've known Nick at Writers House for many years because he got his PhD in computer science here. And he was such an interesting KWH citizen because he brought an aesthetic that wasn't naturally already present here, although no one got. I really think he actually did bring together threads that were existent here, but managed to coalesce them and give them direction and purpose, and he was a great mentor to Steve here in particular. But he created the Machine series, which, although it no longer continues, I think it has digital remnants in the way we think about practice in the Writers House. Absolutely. So here, his PhD was here at Penn, and here at Writers House. Yeah, here at Writers House. Yes. And Roderick Coover's works employed digital media. This is Rod here, and that's Adele back there, his daughter. Roderick Coover's works employ digital media arts and experimental documentary methods to explore points of contact between technologies, the social sciences, and the humanities. Some themes include visual geographies, interactive panoramic, cultural narratives, and their collective representations. He's shown his work all over the world, we're really lucky that he's in Philadelphia and part of an extended community that interacts at the writer's house, and for me also in daycare. We have the same classroom. We have here an important book that Rod has edited, and it's in the back, and it is for sale. It's called Thinking Through Digital Technology, and it brings together leading American and European scholars and scientists and artists to consider how the precipitous growth of digital information and its associated technologies are transforming the ways we think and act. And it's fantastic. It's an amazing compilation. You should at least look at it if you don't buy it, and I hope you buy it. So from these brief bios, you can surmise that this is a collaborative threesome. They're interested in thinking about digital media as a means and a mode for forming community. And with many writers and artists, I think a quick web search, you get a bio stub, you might find a little bit of work, you might, kind of get an inkling of what they're about. But with Nick and Scott and Rod, the web search is anything but quick and it's anything but static. Instead, the work is suddenly available and it's online. And as a reader, you're involved in the collaborative possibilities that they enable. There's shared syllabi, there are FAQ pages for things that, for me at least, come with many cues. There's visionary digital landscapes, systems, project screenings, materials, more materials, potentials. There's just stuff. So what we're doing here, I think, is part of that collaborative possibility. They'll tell you more about ways they've collaborated for this program. This allowed them to think together, and then they'll be doing work separately. So rather than introducing them all along the way, I just wanted to do a big overview of each of them, and then welcome them to the podium and to the Writer's House. Please help me welcome SCOTT RETTBERG, NICK MONTFORT, and RODERICK COOVER.
All right, thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Al, who's just popped out, and thank you all of you for coming. Today is a particularly collaborative experience. I'm very glad that these three ghouls behind us, I think they represent us here, so as long as they stay, don't move around too much. First thing is we want to dim the lights, because almost everything we do will be on the screen, so we want these lights to be off or down. Pretty much, yeah, that'd be, why not? That's good, okay. And what we're doing today is we're showing works made in collaboration. What's unique about this show, one of the things that's unique is it's a show in which each of us have collaborated. I collaborated with Nick, Nick with Scott, Scott with me, and special for this occasion and yesterday in Providence, we created a three-way collaboration. It's a work in progress that you're going to see a first view of, or as it were, a second view of, just showed yesterday for the first time. And that work is still something we're developing, and it will continue to change. And being that it's a generative work, of course, it will always, in some sense, continue to change. The way we've devised tonight is that we'll show one collaboration and then a very short sample of an individual's work. Another collaboration and a short sample of an individual's work. That way you'll see the context from which, get a little view of a context from which the collaborations emerge. And so you can think how three people doing quite different kinds of work come to find meeting points through digital media. The first pieces we're going to look at are two short collaborations between myself and Nick Montfort, Fathoms and Currency. And for Fathoms, Nick is going to read the piece while I click through it. And for Currency, which is a video, we'll then play that. Then we will move on to a short individual piece by Scott RETTBERG, and then Scott will also introduce Implementation, a work between Scott and Nick. Then I'll show a very short example of some of my documentary work on similar themes. And we'll show a collaboration that Scott and I made beginning based on Norwegian tragedies or catastrophes. And that we'll then move on to a short piece by Nick and our three-way three-way work in progress, 3 rails live. So, from that, let's just jump in. And Nick, maybe you would like to take the mic.
This is Fathoms. Stirrings still shift upwards. Each mutters, I am a form. Again, the soft eyes open, bulbs in a euphony of kingdoms. All one raft, a planet shaved for space. The pure variable feet go crazy. Shorn face, no cord, no door. Etch a trace. The panels hold. Half light molded, half out. Man served in an intricate nest. Sharpened to see, to end breath. The black and white vegetable dreams. Turn, are turning also to the sun, facing radiance, soaking it in, up.
As you will see from Fathoms and now our next work, Currency, these pieces are created in a process, step by step, having no idea where we're going to go, but having very tight constraints, and breaking up formal elements of language and image to construct something out of a system, not out of any kind of narrative or subject plan. Now to Currency.
It was the warm, happy season, empty without struggle. We did our tasks and grew apart, some above and some below, but our sameness satisfied no one. They were the ones who sought to perturb it. So, into it again, the filthy den for further fashioning. The masters and the worked upon, red pumped in one, black in the other. Which was which? Forgotten with changes. But what was added or what was taken away left a new sense. Watching, watching, pure thought, shaped of little life. We came to the street there, to the meeting. We met them there on the street. We opened them, watering earth with what was in them. And the season started.
We see a cylindrical box containing a coiled elastic spring, which, by its endeavor to relax itself, turns round the box. We next observe a flexible chain, communicating the action of the spring. Then a series of wheels, the teeth of which catch in. The inference, we think, is inevitable, that the watch must have had a maker. Its several parts are framed and put together for a purpose, formed and adjusted to produce
drink the soup, it's lunch again, longing till elevators drop us out from cage into dazzling cage. Water gun days give to graphic dark, the nighttime sun and the snake of paint and fire. Playing changes, the devil cutting, churning, jumping in earth. That woman's a sponge on dynamite. Lightning in the mind scissors and strikes the alien tree. Wolf with no moon in a bowl of air. Blunt axe, ringing, explaining as to a cockroach. Rock, rock, the man said, as if it would cover paper.
In the lore of the loon, a rune. In the lore of the loon, the moon. No ore this noon, nevermore. In the fear of the pen, the fen. In the fear of the pen, the weir. Now sear no ear, even here. In the din of the inn, begin. In the din of the inn, again. Run thick through skin, the deluge.
Thanks to our voice talent, too.
Oh, here. Well, first I want to say thank you for getting me over from Norway. I hope I don't disappoint people that I'm not actually Norwegian. But I have lived in Norway for the last 5 years. Prior to that, I was teaching at a college in South Jersey. So this is a bit of a homecoming. And I did, during those years, I did enjoy coming here quite often, so it's very nice to be back. I'm going to, in keeping with the theme of collaboration this evening, there's a mighty thin line, I think, between collaboration and appropriation, which neither one is a criminal practice, and both are fun to explore. Nick wrote a poetry generator called Taroko Gorge, which is a very elegant computer program that generates poems about a park in Taiwan. I read the poem generator and enjoyed it quite a bit, but I admired its structure. And I thought this structure would be great fun to play with. So I tried to take Nick's program and adapt it, change it, rewrite its vocabulary, and turn it into what I call a poem about the imaginary city, Tokyo, which isn't imaginary, but I've never been there, so it's imaginary to me. And that poem's called Tokyo Garage, and I'll show that, but also keeping with the theme of mainly screening things tonight. I'm going to show a video that was produced for the DAC 2009 conference in Los Angeles, where they were calling for 5-minute presentations of works of electronic literature. The poem was actually rejected for that event. I think it was because I asked that the presenter wear a tuxedo and a clown nose, and he didn't like that. So. But I was intending to send an emissary. This is the poem on the screen, and
Writing of
here we go.
Oh boy. This is a reciting of a poem by Scott Retberg. The poem is based on the architecture of Nick Montfort's nature poetry generated to Rocco Gorge. This poem, while less elegant, is more rock and roll. It is titled Tokyo Garage. I don't normally use quality or critical basis of the poems I read, so I'm going to assume that you have all read Walter Benjamin, Edward Said, Frederick Hegel, Karl Marx, Mark America, Walt Whitman, Allen Ginsberg, Emily Dickinson, and so on. All of them are relevant to this poem. Mark Marino will run the poem in a web browser while I read you a different iteration. Very well then. Tokyo Garage. Supercomputers inform the villain. Motorcycle gangs imitate. Watcher follows the hosts. Elucidate the mysterious alien. Cowboy feels the dancer. Nose rings expire. Talk show host 60. Vending machines call the robot. Apologize for the incoherent, chaotic, expensive. Law widows rearrange the kids. Undercover cops circle. Driver regrets the soldier. Finger the incoherent. Goth girls feel the kung fu fighters. Altruists expire. Microchips follow the dreamer. Caress the chilling binary metallic electric. Drummer welcomes the cleric. NJ News Wolves. Speed racer follows the automatons. Explain the noisy metallic repressed. Specus metal transports the freak. Kung fu fighters well. Bankers pay. Cultists swindle the correspondent. Waste the disconcerting, noisy, blinking romantic. Cowboys remove the nuns. Cuisines walk. Fishmongers arrest the transvestite. Consider the glowing endless. Temple exposes the pachinko parlor. Robots walk. Godzilla's twist. Movie stars transform the rocketeer. Paint the glowing. Space invaders skin the fruit salon. Dragon's rest. Dancers Harris. Rockstar critics the Kansas. Forget the puzzling, chilling, noisy. Protagonists bribe the monsters. Alternative medicine specialists fail. Virus bribe the diplomat. Digest the overwhelming, glowing, dreamy peripheral. Technocrats jam the transvestite. Two sorry the nuns. Defeat the robotic. Surveillance camera shakes the robot. Gamers twist. Monsters explode. Speed racers hate the bureaucrat. Apologize for the awkwardly familiar, futuristic, endless. Occidentals corrupt the monsters. Monsters harass. Jesus freaks transport the motorcycle gang. Bless the inhospitable CD repressed. Prostitutes confuse the villain. Rockstar preserves the nuns, process the jazzy, strangely quiet, translucent. Saxophonist orients the dancers. Translators sing. Diplomats drop. Jugglers educate the kids. Excuse the disorganized, shabby binary tube. Zombies educate the spiritual seekers. Architects recover. Student ceremonializes the libations. Enter the troubling aimless. Costume mascots follow the dreamer. Mystics debate. Atomic bombs liquidate the embezzler. I do beg your pardon. Yes, you. In the third row, wearing black. Please be quiet while I'm reading. This isn't easy, you know. Jesus fucking Christ. Where was I? Commander robotic plasticity. Technocrats liquidate the bureaucrat. Simon proselytizes the diplomat. Deep the CD bizarre forgetting. Dawns purchase the others. Diplomats walk. Technocrats enlist the bureaucrat. Paint the jazzy disconcerting definitive mystique. Zombie reorients the lantern. Prostitute loves the motorcycle gang. Finger the oversexed. Poets enlist the dancers. Aristocrats defend the markets. Forget the opaque. Bicycle messengers welcome the dancers. Hallucinations contaminate the DJs. Bless the futuristics scantily clad. Ninjas defend the hip cats. Monsters investigate. Clerics reverse. Dragon bribes the dog. Sindamus in the scaly sated electric glowing. Cowboy welcomes the lantern. Dealers recover. DJs recover. Drawers remove the nuns. Sing the disconcerting stinking. By now I think you have the idea. The city is the desert of the real. Tokyo and Disneyland, same thing. Leather system you're imagining for you. Los Angeles, good night. Good night silicon supermetals and theorists of abstractions. Good night machines. Good night feckin' vocabularies. Goodbye to all your air-conditioned nightmares. Good night, my little angels. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, so moving on, we're going to show a bit of implementation, which we've read here before. I think actually for the first time. Implementation is a novel in 240 stickers. The segments of the novel were distributed to people in 8 different installments of 30 chunks of narrative. And then implementers or active readers took the stickers, placed them in public environments around the world, and then sent the photos back to us. So the website for the project includes PDFs of the novel that you can download and print in business shipping label size, as well as an archive of photographs. And we're just right now in the late stages of putting together a book that is a photo book of the whole novel, so that you actually read the novel by looking at the photographs that will hopefully be out pretty soon.
Yeah, there's like 1,600 photos on the site, I believe.
Yeah, there's also an archive on Flickr that has many of them. There are dozens, hundreds of Middle American towns like Implementation, Springfield, Normal, Intercourse. But no others could claim leadership in cardboard box manufacturing, and even neglecting this, few others could boast as active and diverse a group of micro-industries, which ranged from desktop publishing, software development, to advanced mechanical poultry harvesting.
For a moment, it seemed as if everybody in Implementation might dance, the way that they intended to dance at the senior prom, but never did. Here it was, an off-year reunion, the 15th, and still they came. Would they dance? Most of them moved muscles in their back, in their neck, just about dancing. They moved without standing up. They looked down the bar at each other with long-ago wishes. They moved. They did not move.
It weighed on Frank some days. Mom dead, dad dead too, and no offspring. A war on and more box orders than they had machines to produce. Dog of childhood dead. To be honest, no visits to graves. Memories, work, vacation. Shorthand and secretaries with cute smiles, short skirts. The odd business social function now and again. It weighed very little, really. Not much. Time on his hands.
Terror is easier to sell than shoes. Everybody knows it, and you need no athlete nor spokesmodel to sell it to them. Everybody lives in fear like they have never known elsewise. We just give them colors and conditions. We let them express that fear. We make fear a kind of weather. It's okay, that fear. I just say, surrender or die, over and over again.
Frank was 27 years old when he got his hand cut clean off with a circular saw that had no guard. Surprising how little pain. The disbelief and wailing, the bag of ice, the gurney. Recovery that took only weeks. A microsurgeon was on duty. The reattachment was a cinch. It seemed like some surreal sitcom episode to him now. He was embarrassed to relate the experience, even when someone noticed the hairline bracelet of a scar.
Frank has been lying since the day he was born. He would cry for his mother's breast, not because he was thirsty for milk, but because he simply loved the feel of her nipple between his gums.
A Chevrolet Capri pulled up to the main civic structure and implementation, the library. You couldn't smell the fertilizer unless you were mere feet away. No one was that close, no one but the driver. It was Sunday, and on the summer schedule the library was closed. The blast pulverized the statue out front and sent 1,000,000 pages into the air, language disjoint, fluttering in the wind like cherry blossoms.
Why bomb libraries? Were they illiterates, anti-literates? Why not army bases, Hollywood studios, skyscrapers, subway systems, nuclear power plants, Starbucks? The obvious targets. An editorial in the People's Defender suggested eco-terrorists had targeted the repository of dead trees. A poorly copy-edited leaflet appeared linking the incident to the destruction of the Library of Alexandria. Alexandria was in Egypt. Egypt was in the Middle East. And so on.
After the bombing of the library, they decided to have a parade. It's not certain who decided, the mayor, the head librarian, the editor of the Implementation Star. None of them were involved early on. It was as if a groundswell simply proclaimed, "Parade!" They decided somehow who would march, police, firemen, librarians, and who would watch. Uniforms were put on, flags unfolded, tears were shed, pictures in the paper the next day.
Roxanne overheard a woman in the supermarket talking about the counselors the school had brought in to help manage the crisis. They utilized Lego models of the library and teddy bears with detachable limbs, and there was some kind of drum circle. The PTA arranged for story hours to be held in private homes. Roxanne decided she would mention it at her next appointment with her therapist. All the talk had brought some old things back to the surface.
The Implementation Star ran a story about the library's decision to hand over all its patron records to the FBI for the investigation, all the remaining records, which didn't amount to much. Frank wasn't worried. All the authorities would find there was his penchant for Russian novels. But Samantha was a little perturbed. Seemed she had habitually made modifications to the books she'd checked out, bits of cutting and pasting to improve the text.
Some days Kilroy did question what he was doing. The leaflets were addressed to two audiences. The civilians on the ground, and the world that would or might know of these leaflets through the press. He did not question asking the civilians to welcome down pilots into their homes. It was this matter of writing for more than one audience that bothered him.
Good work with the children, Kilroy. Now we want you to do some similar work for stickier situations. Stickier situations, sir. Woman walking towards a checkpoint, pushing a baby carriage, doesn't stop as ordered. Warning shots fired. Woman still won't stop. She is fired upon, is hit, stops. Turns out it's a baby, not a bomb. My assignment? The letter to accompany the compensation.
Okay. Yeah. Can you write about this? Kilroy had run into a guy from an infantry unit he'd been briefly attached to years ago. A corporal then, the kid got linguist training and had made sergeant. Just back from Cuba, they went for a drink. Walking back to the metro, he was bitching about being stationed in Guantanamo, the hell of summer. Closed base. He just really wanted the promotion. A girl with a German shepherd walked by, and the guy stopped and stared off and waved Kilroy back, suddenly starting to hurl.
We're going to jump through a bit so that we don't. Frank fucked Samantha with the TV on volume low. The TV said that 2,000 or so Iraqi troops had been killed. The TV said at least 3 Americans were dead. Samantha was a good right fuck on top. Frank let Samantha fuck him like that for a while, just like that. Frank watched the TV. All those dead, Frank said. Miraculous. Oh, God.
These are the people of implementation, Ohio, in the United States of America, in the world, in terror. They believe in freedom of speech and religion and arms, although they do not agree about what freedom means. They think that weapons of mass destruction are prepared in a faraway place, or else they think they are not. They believe in progress, or the Lord, or they doubt. They suffer themselves. They marry. They raise their kind.
As a brief example of some of my other work, I'm going to show a very short segment of a documentary film called Canyonlands, Edward Abbey in the Great American Desert. This has an interactive cinema version you can find online at unknownterritories.org, in which you can scroll through a vast landscape, through about 2 hours worth of clips, documents, notes from Abbey, and so forth. Ed Abbey being the very influential renegade and person who really spoke out against the environmental destruction of the American Southwest. The link today in showing it here is partly that a lot of my work runs at the intersection of spatial practice, language, image, how we represent the senses of being somewhere. So I'm going to show a very short clip from that film, and then we'll move on to look at a collaborative work between Scott and myself that it was just finished last week. That is a 3-part trilogy that we've been making on Norway. So first to this short work. And the lights would come completely down, that would be great.
Junk. Trash, rubbish. Our lives are debauched, our natural resources squandered, our native land ravaged in this mad production of metal, plastic, glass, and paper garbage. All the while real needs go unsatisfied, homes and apartments for all, that are well-made, well-designed, comfortable, durable and handsome, quick, easy urban transit systems, good continental passenger train service, water that is fit to drink, air that is fit to breathe, food that is fit to eat, and now and then, when we want it, some space and solitude and silence. Is that too much to ask of a sane and rational political economy?
And you can find the whole work at unknownterritories.org. And now we're going to move to trilogy. Let me say one thing about the trilogy. This was begun in Bergen last year when I was visiting Scott and at the university for a month, which was really great. And we were talking about the Norwegians' relationship to tragic things in a world that doesn't seem to have much bad taking place whatsoever. So, Scott, would you like to say anything to introduce this?
Bad things do occasionally happen there.
Yes, actually, since we started.
Yeah, recently there were some very bad things. We were talking a bit when Rod visited. It was sort of right after the volcano had erupted in Iceland, and actually the clouds of ash came over to Bergen from Iceland. So if we stood out on our porch, there'd be this sort of black material that we could collect, and it was actually ashes from the volcano. And it was we sometimes in Bergen, although it's a very beautiful kind of clean environment, we sometimes get an inversion effect. It's a city that's ringed by mountains, and the cold air tends to hold in pollution when it's a bad winter. And there was this sort of combination of those two things happening at the same time. And I did a little research because I became a bit obsessed of, there's ash coming down, and what effects does this have? And I found out that in an earlier time there'd actually been a volcanic eruption that, although it was in Iceland, had some very bad health effects on Bergen. And then the other thing that Rod and I started talking about as we started putting this project together was just the sense of the way that natural disasters have become this kind of spectator event that's part of the regular news cycle now. And there's all these massive disasters that sort of float into our consciousness and are covered intensively for a short period of time and then sort of float out of our consciousness. So that's one thing that we're exploring. Then the other thing is sort of the sense of being in two cultures at the same time, and how people move across two languages at the same time. And we also worked with some Norwegian friends. The texts, as you'll see, are both in English and elements in Norwegian as well. And the only other, sorry, I'm going on a bit, but I wanted to say it's a great experience for me as a writer, because I spend a lot of time working on things that these electronic literature pieces where I put in all this effort, and then the output is experienced over a very short period of time. Whereas with this project, I'm able to sort of write the texts and the stories and help Rod with some elements of producing the work. But Rod is the one who goes off and spends months at a time working with the images, and I'm really very very grateful to all the work that Rod does on these films.
Great. And we'll want lights out. Thank you.
Noen sier at det som skjer en gang, aldri skjer igjen. Andre sier at alt gjentar seg. En sommermorgen ble 20 år av himmelen jerntom. Solen filtrerer seg med skyer og støv, som ansiktet til min sinnsende mann. Juni er varm, veldig varm for Bergen. Først tror vi at det bare er en tørr sommerdis. Det har vært litt regn. Men disen forsvinner ikke. Kobberrøde skyer henger lavt og dypt og ligger over Bergen, som er omgitt av 7 fjell. Noen sier at det bare er støv som stiger opp fra fjellgårdene med sine vanlige tørre marker. Solen er en flammende rød kul, og vi kan ikke huske en sommer så varm, eller en luft så kvelende som denne. Luften smaker av svovel, og noen sier at djevelen har vendt tilbake for å søke hevn for heksene, som ble brent på bålet på Nordnes i svunne tider. De sier at luften ikke er så ille hvis du er frisk. Bladene på trærne visner, og det ligger en merkelig for støv over gresset på engen. Hele sommeren teller vi de døde. Det er ingen blå himmel å se på flere uker. Gårdene kommer med dårlige nyheter. Dyrene dør bort, og jorden avler ingenting. Det meldes om lam som faller som råtten frukt, med gult, skjumlende spytt renner løs fra beina. De unge kaster opp blod, og de eldste har dødd. Skipene blir ikke lenge i havna. De sier Bergen er en syk by, noe som at de gamle gudene våkner, misfornøyde med vår arroganse. Vi hører fra sjømenn at krigen i Amerika er avsluttet, og at franskmenn har sendt en globus aerostatikk til himmels. Veldig snart, sier de, vil menn reise gjennom himmelen, slik som fuglene flyr fra gren til gren, fra fjell til fjell, fra kongedømme til kongedømme. Jeg kan forestille meg dette, men mer som en drøm. Det svever over virvlende skyer av gul, grønn og oransje gass, under en fargerik luftballong på en vei til et sted hvor luften er ren. Ingen skip ligger lenge i havna, og sjøfolkene glor mistenksomt på oss, som vi bærer en smitte som ikke lar seg vaske bort. Sommeren vil bli varm og vinteren kald. Det finnes ingen steder å flykte til, og ingen ting som kan bli gjort. Det eneste sikre er at anleggene vil bli magre og livet vanskelig, og vi vil bære mange kister. Vi kommer til å gjenta de gamle historiene, eller vi kommer til å glemme dem. Tiden, er jeg sikker på, vil en dag ta slutt. Noen sier at det som skjer en gang, aldri skjer igjen. Andre sier at alt gjentar seg. En sommermorgen i 20 år er himmelen jernbrun. Solen filtrerer seg gjennom skyer og støv, som ansiktet til en sint salamander. Juni er varm, veldig varm i Bergen. Først tror vi at det var en tørr sommeris, og det har vært lite regn. Men disen forsvinner ikke. Kobbergrå skyer henger lavt og tykt og ligger over byen, som er omgitt av 7 fjell. Noen sier at det var støv som stiger på fjellmålene, med sine vanlige tørre marker. Solen er en flammende rød kule, og vi kan ikke huske en sommer som varmere luft så kvevende som den. Luften smaker av svovel, og noen sier at djevelen er tilbake for å søke hevn for heksene som ble brent på bålet på Nordnes i svømmetiden. Hvis luften ikke er så innlyst og frisk. Bladet med trærne visner, og det ligger en merkelig form for støv over gresset på engen. Det var varmt nok til å bade i fjorden, men etter ingenting. Hele sommeren tenner vi de dørene. Det er ingen blå himmel å se på flere uker. Gården kommer med dårlige nyheter. Dyrene er borte, og jorden avler ingenting. Det var en sånn lam som faller om som råtten frukt, og skolen spyrt og kjøtt allerede løs for beina. De unge kaster opp blod, og de eldste har dødd. Skipene blir ikke lenge i havnene. De sier at Bergen er en syk by. Noen sier at det er gamle gudene og vårdløse og misfornøyde med vår arroganse. Vi hører fra sjøen at krigen i Amerika er avsluttet, og at franskmenn har sendt en globus aerostatikk til himmelen. Veldig snart ser de verdens reise til himmelen, slik som fugler flyr fra gren til gren, fra fjell til fjell, fra kongedømme til kongedømme. Jeg kan forestille meg dette med meg som en drøm. Det svever virvlende skyer gul, grønn og oransje gass i en fargerik luftballong på vei til et sted hvor luften er ren. Ingen skip ligger igjen i havnen, og sjøfolkene lurer mistenksomt på oss som vil være en smitte som ikke lar seg vaske bort. Sommeren vil bli varm og vinteren kald. Det finnes ingen steder å flykte, og ingenting som kan bli gjort. Det eneste som er sikkert er at anleggene blir magre og livet vanskelig. Vi vil være mange kister på alle. Vi kommer til å gjenta de gamle historiene, eller vi kommer til å glemme dem. Tiden, er jeg sikker på, blir en av på slutt.
Hello. I really like your profile.
Tack för det.
Yeah, it's really nice. You look fabulous. I know with the distance that it might, be difficult probably for us to really date, but you never know.
Det är möjligt. Jag är inte gift. Och jag liker exotiska människor.
That's nice. That's really nice. I've never dated a blonde. Is that picture really you?
Ja, selvfølgelig. Shall we do this in English?
Norwegian. I love the music of your voice.
Jeg kan snakke norsk av
No, no,
meg.
no, please, Norwegian. I can understand some. My grandmother used to speak it in the kitchen. I know a few phrases. Oofda.
Så familien din er da?
My grandmother on my father's side, also Danish.
Det regner i Bergen nå.
I'm not sure why my grandmother only spoke Norwegian in the kitchen. Maybe because grandpa was a Dane.
Du er så flink til å forstå norsk.
Do you mind if I tell you that when you speak Norwegian, your voice is incredibly sexy? You remind me of one of those Bergman heroines.
Nei, det er greit med meg.
This is amazing. I can't wait to video Skype you once we get past this first chat.
Ja, det er mulig. Kanskje det er mulig.
Maybe I can even get over there to the motherland. Do you call it that, the motherland?
Nei, egentlig ikke.
Whatever. But I'd love to see your fjords and ride in them, in a big boat.
Det kan være mulig.
They look amazing. Like your profile picture.
Fjordene er vakre.
Yeah, I find you very beautiful. I suppose I should tell you about myself.
Ja, du kan like godt fortelle meg.
I work in a laboratory. I'm an epidemiologist. You know what that is?
Er det en lege som jobber med døde mennesker?
No, I'm not a pathologist.
Som en rettsmedisiner på CSI? Skjermen folk bort?
I study diseases. I mean, of course, I do some dissections, mostly rats.
Jeg hater rotter.
I don't so much mind rats. I feel sort of bad for them. I mean, I give up diseases on purpose. But I'm a scientist, you know.
Jeg forstår.
One needs to be somewhat detached and careful. We deal with virulent strains in our lab. The kind of thing that could wipe out a city or worse. You ever heard of necrotizing fasciitis? It's the disease that eats human flesh.
Er du en kannibal?
I've done some work with that. It's really nasty stuff. But don't worry, I always wash my hands when I leave the lab.
Det er bra for deg.
Yeah, I'm extremely hygienic. Do you know if your family extends back to the Vikings?
Ja, det er mulig.
I hear that when they raided cities, the Vikings would carry off the most beautiful women along with loot. And they say that's why so many Scandinavian women are so beautiful. Well, looking at your photo, I can believe it.
Du må ikke smigle meg.
I'm sorry, sometimes I go on. Maybe I spend too much time alone with the rats. But a rat can tell you a lot about a disease.
Jeg er ikke sikker på min families genetiske historie.
Diseases have always been important, I think, in the grand scheme of things.
Noen av mine forfedre kan ha vært hekser.
Brain surgeons and cardiologists, you know, people understand what they do. They drive the fancy cars and they save individual lives. But for me, the real heroes are in the lab. It's not glamorous work, but battling swine flu or bird flu or cholera is really important. I might not cut out any tumors, but I could save hundreds of thousands of lives. Even if I do spend all day killing rats in a basement, you know, counting dead rats.
Hvorfor er så mange sykdommer oppkalt etter dyr?
Well, there's a close connection. Sometimes we name a disease after the symptoms that the animal displays, like hoof and mouth disease, for instance. Sometimes the disease just shows up first in animals, like avian influenza or H1N1. And other times they're just carriers.
Som rotter.
Yeah, rats are the classic example. Both the black rat, Rattus rattus, and the brown rat, also known as the Norway rat, incidentally, can carry pathogens in their blood.
Norsk rotte?
Astonishingly resilient creatures. A lot of people think the Norwegian rat carried the bubonic plague.
Men det var engelskråper, ikke sant?
Yeah, it probably wasn't the Norwegian rat. It probably was black rats, Rattus rattus. Actually, it's most likely it was fleas. Fleas on black rats' backs.
Jeg har lest om plassen. Den var hard i Norge. Den forlot en hel sivilisasjon i ruiner.
I don't mean to go on about disease. I just spend so much time thinking about it. You know, disease is my bread and butter.
Jeg hadde mareritt om pesten da jeg var liten.
You know, people don't think it could happen again, but it totally can. It probably will. We're due for another big epidemic. We got lucky in '09 with the swine flu.
I marerittet mitt var det en båt uten mannskap. Bare døde menn og rotter. Hundrevis og hundrevis av rotter. Tusenvis av rotter.
Hey, are you upset? I didn't mean to upset you. It's not the end of the world. Not yet.
Båten driver sakte inn i havnen, og rottene fosser ut av skipet. Svarte rotter med røde øyne og skarpe tenner.
Don't be upset.
De sultne rottene farer utover hele byen og biter ungene. Sykdommen brer seg raskt, de syke er forlatt i gatene. Byen stinker av brenner. Barn forlater sine foreldre. Foreldre forlater sine barn.
Should we talk about something else?
Halvparten, mer enn halvparten av befolkningen lå døde før natt. Det er bare støv, gråt, klage, det er ingen håp. Og så er det stille under Torvehaven.
Sounds very sad.
Det er bare morgen. Den verste delen av morgenen.
I meant to ask you about one tiny thing on your profile.
Hva da?
It says you have an animal, a pet.
Jeg har katter.
You have a cat?
Jeg har mange katter. 9 katter. Jeg elsker katter.
No.
Hva? Hva er det?
I'm allergic to cats.
Er du sikker på at den ikke er psykologisk, denne allergien?
No, it's real. It's a real allergy. I sneeze and I break out and everything.
Det var synd.
Can I ask you something hypothetically?
Det kan du.
Well, let's say you met someone special and you fell for him and you really felt attracted to him, head over heels. And let's say that someone asked you to get rid of the cats. Would you? For love?
Hjerte kattene.
Not necessarily kill them, just get rid of them. I can't imagine the smell you must live with.
Det ville aldri falle meg en. Tanken gjør meg syk. Hva for menneske er du?
I'm sorry.
Du snakker om pesten. Pesten. Vet du hva som forårsaket pesten? Det var heksejakt som forårsaket pesten. De sa at kvinner med katter var hekser. De brente dem, og de drepte katter.
Don't get offended.
Katter dreper rotter. Mine katter dreper rotter. De er bra katter.
I'm sorry. I like you so much. You know, it was going so well.
Det er ikke så veldig bra.
I don't want to get old and die alone. I thought maybe there was a spark.
De dør alle alene.
No, I guess we do. Well,
Ikke ring igjen.
goodbye.
I'm really sorry about the island. The killings. I was so upset. It's so pointless.
Ja,
I think we Scots have more in common with Norwegians than we do with the English.
vi deler de samme stormen. Bølgene er rare i dag.
Yeah, I suppose they're always changing.
I I Norge venter det mange år for bølger og de ulike åndenes beburing. Bølger, the billowing wave. Røm, the grasping wave. Himmelvæver, the wave that shows us the sky. Det er nyslag.
We have this amazing capacity to forget the power of nature. Some kind of amnesia makes us forget what happened last year and not care what might happen next. Like climate change.
Blodgave, som er min favoritt. Have you heard of that one? The bloody-haired wave. She's the wave who comes up when men have spilled blood in the sea.
The deniers. So little respect for science, so little respect for nature, so arrogant.
Og her står vi på en oljeplattform i Nordsjøen.
I know. Who am I to talk about tinkering with nature? What could be more interventionist than sucking fossil fuel from the seabed?
Vi er små i møte med havet. Det er så skummelt på en bølgetopp.
In the span of geological time, our actions are trivial. The earth will survive us.
Fjellet vil stå lenger etter vi faller. Havet vil leve lenger enn våre drømmer. Cigarette?
No thanks. They'll kill you.
Nok vil det, så klart.
Have you heard of the Storega slide?
The Big Edge? Det har jeg ikke.
The coastal shelf. About 100 miles north of here. About 8,000 years ago, there was a sudden release of methane gas. It triggered a massive subsea landslide, an inconceivably large displacement, cataclysmic tsunami.
Er det norsk flodbølge?
Devastating. We don't know much about the people that occupied the area at the time.
Var de gode svømmere?
Most of them lived right in the path of the wave. The land that was there is now the English Channel. Parts of the Norwegian coast, the Scottish coast, an entire mass of land, greater part of a population, washed away in the blink of an eye.
Snipp, snapp, snute.
If that were to happen today, Aberdeen, Dundee, Edinburgh,
Bergen, Stavanger, Kristiansand.
water surging up all the fjords and inlets, oil platforms washed away, the nuclear power plants flooded, meltdowns.
Som Japan.
The British Isles and Scandinavia are radioactive for generations. Cancers and genetic mutations. All of Northern Europe made a festering toxic wound, scarring the face of the earth.
Og likevel ser det så fredelig ut nå.
I don't mean to be morbid. It's just that I worked on the Ormen Lange natural gas field. We studied scenarios.
Så det må jeg.
We concluded it almost certainly impossible that our little drilling here and there, our careful extractions, could have any adverse effects. Certainly not of that scale. And yet,
Og likevel.
pay my beasties no heed. What's for dinner?
Lasagne. Liker du det?
Yeah, better than fish balls. I should get back to control.
Og jeg til kjøkkenet.
Nice to chat, Chef.
Vent litt. Hører du det?
You're what?
Ingenting. Det er så stille.
Something's happening.
Det er sikkert ingenting.
They've sealed the fire doors.
Det er sikkert bare en øvelse.
The OEM would have let me know. Something real is happening.
Helikopter kommer. We know the drill.
Yeah, the helicopters will come.
Vi er i alle fall i et høyt område.
Yeah, thanks. I'll take one though.
Det er ikke en snart.
Do you have children?
Ja, jeg har to små.
My daughter's 20. The last time we spoke, we had a quarrel. Wish they'd let us have our damn mobile phones.
Det er ikke lett å være mor. Helikopter er her snart.
She's strong. She's got a lot of will.
Jeg har ikke hørt om en eksplosjon i.
That's good, yeah. Funny, in my head I was just reviewing my life insurance policy. What a thing to think of.
Og bare bli tatt vare på. Statoil provides.
Probably just a cautionary measure. Maybe a ruptured line.
Jeg er ikke en sterk søvn, liksom.
The The shoppers will be here long before we need to think about life jackets.
Lift! Lift!
Oh, thank God.
How'd you know that?
What on earth? I could kiss you, Chef.
What is you work for now?
What are they working for?
Barometer.
Too much oil?
Hey, dogs are feet.
Who's fighting? Oh,
Ah, fun!
in the name of God.
How did they were born then?
Where are they gone? Where are they gone?
Ready!
All right. Let me see if I can cheer you up with some palindromes. I've joined a social networking site that you may be interested to know about called Twitter. It is at twitter.com, I believe. If you would like to follow me there, my @name is Nick Mofo. I have a few tweets to share with you, such as, you can touch my bear, can't you? But you can't bear my touch, can you? Orpheus glances backwards. No backwards glances, Orpheus. Science of Master earns Igor benefits. Igor earns Master of Science. That was for yesterday. And then one that I wrote walking over here today. Poetry and prose cleave and differ, or chapter and verse. Cite scholars, cite chapter and verse, or differ, cleave, prose, and poetry. I hope I typed that in wrong to this page and I tweeted it correctly. Anyway. And this is really, this is a sort of project in progress, and I'm going to read just one more page from a project that is in progress. Actually, another sort of theme is that the work that we're showing is in many cases in various stages of completion, even implementation, which was started 6 years ago, is we're still doing a book that comes out of that. The writing is done, and much of the adhering to walls and taking of photographs and so on. But and other things are such as the piece that you're going to see that to finish off this set is other things are intermediate. So I wanted to read something that's more or less from my notebook. It's from a piece that I don't know how many more years it's going to take me to finish. That I'm thinking of calling All the Way for the Win. Who was Bob? Ass man, leg man, tit man, gay man. Was Bob our man? Was Bob his own man? Was Bob the hit man who did the job for the mob? Was Bob the lawman, the fed who ran the mob out? Had Bob any joy and awe for God? Was Bob all for God? Fra Bob. Was Bob but the layman? Was Bob the odd man out? Was Bob the yes man? Was Bob the top dog? Did Bob gun the car and ram his foe? Was Bob Mad Max? Did Bob cup the ass for art and pop the eye out? Cut the eye? Was Bob Man Ray? Did Bob oft get the cow from the big man and aid the men who had nae sick? Was Bob Rob Roy? Did Bob eat the big dot and run off? Was Bob Pac-Man? Did Bob pop his foe and dig his way out? Was Bob Dig Dug? Was Bob Badass? Was Bob the Tin Man? Leo, the guy who had the hat? And was Bob the Whiz too? The big, wow, whiz who hid, who sat off the set? Did Bob pin the odd ode? Did Bob cry out and see one new way and jam out ink? Was Bob Maclow? Was Bob Book? Was his gnome not Bob? His pin gnome? Did Bob jot out the odd bon mot and not use one set tag? Thank you.
So this is the final piece for tonight is our three-way collaboration of a work very much in progress. And it is en route to being a generated film story poem. And a very new kind of thing, therefore, story poem film, in which each element will trigger other elements back and forth across the media. So once I click this button, it will start and we can dim the lights. I'd say the volume's been a bit low. We might up the volume just a touch if it sounds low to you. Okay, here we go. I hope. Just hiding? Let's try quitting it and do it again.
I'm trying to kick it into presentation.
No, I
No.
think we're good. We're just Chrome is crawling.
Or burning, perhaps, as William Gibson might have it.
There we go.
It was when they traveled to the oil refinery.
We didn't. This isn't
Just
here. Just
hit bookmark again.
just do this. There we go. Ah, that was presentation mode. All right.
It was when they traveled.
Okay.
It was when they traveled to the oil refinery, just to see it, just to see what made the whole economy turn up close with their own eyes. It was that day it first occurred to her. I may divorce this man. I could. I may leave him behind, like a used mop, like a tarnished silver spoon, like a tin can that used to contain soup. I may grow tired of him at any time, or he tired of me. We may die without each other. I may be alone. Whenever we go on vacation together, we have small arguments. Something is missing from the luggage, a toothbrush or something. Or some hotel is not what we'd imagined. Or someone lost the directions. Someone wants to go to the art museum when someone else wants to go for a walk along the river. We have these petty arguments. I think we all do. But then there are those moments of serenity, when you see something together and you stop and think, we're here now, together, in this place. And you reach across and you find real comfort.
The moral of the story is, a narrow fellow in the hand is
At some point, fate will reach out for you, or coincidence will. Something from an actuarial table. I suppose it's not really fate, it's just circumstance. Fate is just a sort of comforting umbrella for the unexpected. Some sort of unanticipated death will be there for you, or some sort of anticipated death. I suppose we all anticipate death at some point, though we live as if we are immortal. Few of us will actually die at the hands, or rather teeth, of a small animal. Do you say died at the teeth of, if you die from a bite from a small animal, from poison? How would you go about describing that? As he was dying, all of it struck him as absurd. Not just the snake bite, the whole ball of wax. He found himself thinking of the phrase, winterize your tires, and he thought, that's funny. We like to watch other people having a good time. We like to watch young lovers laughing, embracing, watching the sunset. We remember maybe when we were young. We do this on vacation together. We look out for young lovers. We do it without wanting. We do it without longing for anything really. It's just something we do. There's some spark there we appreciate. We do this on vacation. That's what we do.
The moral of the story is people who live in glass houses have a room with a view.
We're all just tourists here. We all come from somewhere else. None of us actually belong to one particular place or one particular era. We stand where we land. Some people think there's something important about a sense of place, that there's a sense of belonging to a place, as if the mountains around you become part of your bones. I don't think there's much to that. The possibility of the sleeping compartment, the mysterious stranger, the casual glance of the newspaper at the passenger across, the air of mystery. Secret agents almost always ride in trains. A whiff of perfume, a pillbox hat, a rhythmic landscape, the Freudian suggestion implicit. A martini in a dining car, a chance encounter. We always somehow expected that we would have an affair on the train.
The moral of the story is teach a man to fish in the eye of the beholder.
I suppose, he said, we could have brought some signs or something to protest this place. Truly ugly the way it belches smoke into the sky. Sort of monstrous, isn't it? It is like it is eating itself. He said something like that in Norwegian. I couldn't really tell whether or not he was joking, or serious, or half serious. Everyone around here seems to love nature, but they also like to go home early from work and enjoy the benefits their natural resources provide. There's an awareness of consequences, a sort of balancing act people play with the ethical parts of themselves. There are problems of translation. He loved trains, associated them with childhood, the model train set circling around the Christmas tree. He remembered a sort of ride you used to see at old-time amusement parks with train cars a child could propel by cycling with his hands faster and faster. He loved the music of trains, the shuffling noise they make as they move on the rails, the landscape shifting as he turned pages. Trains represented true progress, the slow progress of the careful reader, and the excited progress of the eager child. He never associated trains with death, never considered that the train might derail.
The moral of the story is, if at first you don't succeed, any train will get you there.
I don't believe in fate, no. But I don't really think that I'm the master of my own destiny. So many things have happened that I wouldn't have anticipated. I guess I think there's an invisible hand of some kind. A finger that flicks an avalanche or claps an earthquake into being. I don't think it's God, really. It's some force that's beyond me. I don't feel like I'm the master of my own destiny. That's for sure. He died about 15 minutes after he was bitten by the snake. She cried out the very moment he was bitten, as if she knew what would come, that it would be the end of things, or an end of something. For a moment it was like a scene in the Garden of Eden. But as she watched him dying on the sand, in that unbearable heat, it was actually just another scene in her desert of the real.
The moral of the story is, don't bring a bus to a train fight.
Let's have one more round of applause for the whole thing. And we do have a reception in the dining room, so everyone should please have drink and cheese and wine.
It was good for 5 segments.
Yeah, I think that was perfect.
Because
Absolutely.
at the end of a long program,
It was a long program. I thought, I really loved, I found it really interesting to have correspondences that weren't content driven, but were, where